My husband's mother tried to make herself my baby's legal parent on paper. My husband helped her. They both found out what a real legal parent looks like when they walked into a lawyer's office and realized half the signatures on their little plan were a crime. Before I get into it, if you like long Reddit-style relationship stories about toxic in-laws, baby drama, custody, and legal revenge, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It really helps more people find these full stories. I'm 30, my soon-to-be ex-husband Matt is 32, and we have one daughter, Emma, who's 10 months old. When I met Matt, I didn't just get a boyfriend, I got his mom. His mother, Carol, is one of those women who introduces herself as a boy mom like it's a personality. If you ask her about her hobbies, she'll say, "my sons," and actually mean it. From our second date, I knew she was intense. Matt's phone lit up with Mom 4 times during the movie. After the 4th call, he whispered, "Sorry, she worries," and answered in the hallway. I remember him coming back in, laughing. "She wanted to make sure I wore a jacket," he said, shrugging. At the time, I thought it was kind of sweet. My own mom is more hands-off. I thought, okay, tight-knit family, bit much, but fine. The first big red flag I ignored was the way Carol talked about Matt. She'd say things like, "He's such a good provider. Any woman he marries will be lucky. No one will ever love you like your mother does." When I prayed for a son, I asked God to make him mine forever. I'd laugh awkwardly and change the subject. Matt would just roll his eyes and say, "That's just how she is. She doesn't mean anything by it." Fast forward, we date 3 years, get married, buy a small house in the same city, but crucially, not in the same neighborhood as his parents. I thought we'd done a good job of setting boundaries. We had Sunday dinners, but not every day. Carol called too often, but I could ignore a call. She made passive-aggressive comments about me not needing her recipes, but she never outright crossed a line. Then I got pregnant. I don't know what switch flipped in her brain, but it was like she smelled the hormones through the phone. Suddenly, I wasn't just the girl who married her son. I was the carrier of her grandchild. She called it that more than once. "How's my little carrier doing?" she'd sing into the phone. I'd laugh uneasily. "You mean your daughter-in-law?" "Same thing," she'd chirp. "You're the vessel, I'm the grandma, we all have our roles." It bothered me, but I brushed it off. People say weird, tone-deaf things about pregnancy all the time, right? Then came the first real boundary test, the gender reveal I didn't want. I told Matt I didn't care about pink balloons or blue cupcakes. I just wanted to find out at the ultrasound and maybe do a small dinner. Carol was horrified. "You're depriving the family of a moment," she gasped. "We need a proper reveal. I'll plan everything, you just show up. That's what moms are for." What she meant was, that's what I am for. I compromised. Small backyard thing, no fireworks, no weird Instagram stunt. Matt and I bought a little cake with neutral frosting. When we cut into it and saw pink, I burst into tears. Hormones, relief, joy, everything at once. I was going to have a daughter. Carol's reaction. She screamed, clapped, and then grabbed my shoulders. "I finally get a little girl," she cried. "After 2 boys, I get my girl. My girl." She repeated it all afternoon. "My girl is going to love bows. My girl is going to stay at Nana's all the time. My girl is going to know who really raised her." I felt a little stab in my chest every time, but everyone laughed and chalked it up to excited grandma energy. You would think the worst part was the pregnancy. The constant advice, the unsolicited touches of my belly, the "we'll take her every weekend so you two can rest" comments. It was. The worst part started after Emma was born. Labor was rough. 22 hours, emergency C-section at the end. I lost a lot of blood. I don't clearly remember the first few hours afterward. Everything was hazy from anesthesia and pain meds. I do remember one moment very clearly, though. I was lying in the hospital bed, unable to move much, staring at the ceiling when I heard Carol's voice. She should put my name on something, she was saying. In case something happens, you can't be too careful. I turned my head slowly. Matt and Carol were standing near the door with a nurse. Matt looked uncomfortable. The nurse looked confused. "I'm sorry, on what exactly?" the nurse asked. "The birth certificate, guardianship paperwork, whatever you do here," Carol said briskly. "I'm her grandmother. I should be listed as someone who can make decisions if Mom is indisposed." I croaked, "What are you talking about?" Carol rushed over, her expression instantly shifting to concern. "Oh, honey, nothing you need to worry about," she said, patting my arm. "Just adult things, you rest." "I am an adult," I said weakly. The nurse, bless her, stepped in. "Only the parents are listed on the birth certificate," she said firmly. "And any paperwork about guardianship or medical decisions would need Mom's explicit consent when she's fully alert." Carol pursed her lips. "Well, as long as someone is thinking ahead," she sniffed. At the time, I filed it under overbearing grandma being dramatic and went back to trying not to vomit. If I had been less drugged, maybe I would have seen the pattern start right there. Once we got home, the onslaught really began. Carol started coming over to help constantly. Sometimes it was helpful. She'd bring a casserole, fold some laundry. Other times it was suffocating. She'd criticize how I held Emma. "Support her head more. No, not like that. Have you never been around babies?" She'd make comments about my recovery. "You're still so pale. Are you sure you should be alone with her all day? Surgery takes a lot out of you." She'd insert herself into decisions that were none of her business. "You're not really going to go back to work, are you? A baby needs her mother, or her grandmother in this case." If I pushed back even slightly, she'd pout. "I'm just worried about my girl," she'd say, kissing Emma's head. "You know I raised two. I know what I'm doing." Matt's response to all of this was, "She's just excited. She'll calm down." He was no help at all with boundaries. If anything, he enjoyed the break when his mom was over. She'd swoop in, take the baby, and he'd disappear into the living room with his phone. I tried to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I was exhausted, hormonal, and I second-guessed myself constantly. Then paperwork started showing up. The first envelope was from our health insurance. It was a notice confirming primary subscriber for Emma's coverage. I assumed it would be me or Matt. We had added her to the policy before I left the hospital. I opened it half distractedly while Emma napped on my chest. Name of dependent, Emma our last name. Primary subscriber, Carol last name. Relationship, grandparent. Policy owner, Matt's employer plan details. I sat up so fast Emma whined in her sleep. I read it 3 times. Why on earth was his mother listed as the primary subscriber on my baby's insurance? My first thought was, administrative mistake, mix-up. Someone clicked the wrong name on a drop-down menu. I called the insurance company. After 20 minutes of hold music, a rep finally pulled up our account. "Hi, so my infant daughter was just added to our plan, but the letter says her grandmother is the primary subscriber," I said. "That doesn't seem right. Shouldn't it be one of her parents?" The rep replied, "Let me see. Okay, I see here a recent change. The primary contact and authorized decision-maker for Emma's portion of the policy was updated last week. It lists Carol as the primary contact for medical decisions and billing on this dependent." My mouth went dry. "What do you mean, authorized decision-maker?" I asked. The person we contact first about claims, approvals, pre-authorizations, that sort of thing, the rep said. There's a signed form on file. Signed by who? I interrupted. The keyboard clacked. It shows mother and father's signatures, she said, both scanned in. My heart dropped into my stomach. I didn't sign anything like that, I said. Can you email me a copy of that form? She hesitated. We can mail it for security purposes. Mail it then, I said, please, as soon as possible. I hung up and just sat there. Emma snuffled against my chest. I could hear the dishwasher humming in the kitchen. I felt a cold, creeping anger under the exhaustion. That night I asked Matt about it. Did you put your mom on Emma's insurance as in charge? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He blinked. What? No, the company handles all that, he said. I told him what the insurance rep had said. It must be a paperwork glitch, he insisted. I clicked through a bunch of forms when we added her. Maybe it defaulted to mom because she's on my emergency contact. Your mom is on your emergency contact? I asked. Yeah, always has been, he said, like that was obvious. Babe, you're overthinking, we'll fix it if it's wrong. I wanted to believe him. Then the mail came. A few days later, the envelope from the insurance company arrived. Inside was a copy of the Dependent Authorization and Primary Contact Update Form. At the top, our names, policy number, Emma's name and date of birth. Below that, a section labeled Designated Primary Contact for this dependent's care and coverage. There, in black ink, was Carol's full name and information. Under that, a paragraph. I authorize the above individual to act as the primary contact for my dependent's medical claims, coverage decisions, and communications with insurance company. This includes, but is not limited to, receiving information, making non-binding decisions about treatment approvals within policy limits, and managing billing. Then 2 signature lines. Parent Guardian 1 print and sign, with my name typed neatly underneath, and a signature that looked like mine. Not perfect, but close, like someone had traced it from a birthday card. Parent Guardian 2 print and sign, Matt's name and a signature that matched his pretty well. My head started buzzing. I marched into the living room, where Matt was scrolling TikTok. What is this? I asked, holding up the paper. He glanced over. Insurance thing, he said. It's an insurance thing with my forged signature on it, I snapped. You told them I authorized your mother to be in charge of Emma's care. He frowned, took the paper, and looked closer. I thought you signed that at the pediatrician, he said. The day my mom came with you, she said there were some forms. I cut him off. I did not sign anything giving your mother authority over my child's medical decisions, I said. I remember every form I signed that day. It was just new patient info. He shifted in his seat. Okay, well, maybe Mom misunderstood, he said. She said she took care of some paperwork while you were breastfeeding. It's not a big deal, she's just a contact. Matt, I said slowly, this form says she's the primary contact and authorized to talk to the insurance about Emma's care. That is a very big deal, and someone faked my signature. He sighed like I was being dramatic. You're making it sound sinister, he said. She just wants to help. She's done this stuff before with my brother's kids. She knows the system. I stared at him. Did you sign this? I asked. He hesitated a fraction too long. Maybe, he said. Mom brought it over, said you'd already signed your part at the doctor's. She said it was needed so she could take Emma to appointments if we're busy. I didn't think. That's the problem, I said. You didn't think she did for you. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just took a photo of the form front and back and quietly put it in a folder. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying that hospital conversation, the one where she asked about being able to make decisions if mom is indisposed. Indisposed like recovering from surgery, working, or dead. The next few weeks, I noticed more little things. At Emma's pediatric appointment, the receptionist said cheerfully, "Oh, we have Grandma listed as a contact too. So helpful." At daycare orientation, when they asked who was allowed to pick up Emma, Carol piped up before I could answer. "You can put me as an emergency guardian," she said. "She'll be at my house a lot." When I hesitated, she muttered loud enough for everyone to hear, "You never know when mom might not be up to it." Every time if I pushed back, I got told I was overreacting, ungrateful, hormonal, exhausted, not thinking clearly. "You should be glad you have someone who loves Emma this much," Matt said one night. "Not everyone has that." I thought of all the women whose in-laws barely acknowledge their kids. I thought of how I used to envy them their distance. I made an appointment with a family lawyer. Melissa, yes, same name as the first story's lawyer, different person in my universe. But my brain apparently likes lawyer Melissas, listened quietly as I laid everything out. Carol's comments, the attempted hospital conversation, the forged insurance form. "Do you think they do more than that?" she asked. "I don't know," I said. "Part of me feels crazy even being here. But another part of me can see Carol marching into a school someday waving some paper and saying she's Emma's legal guardian." Melissa nodded slowly. "Here's the thing," she said. "Legally, right now, you and your husband are the only people with parental rights. A form with the insurance doesn't change that. But someone forging your signature on any document related to your child's care, that's serious. And it tells me your instincts are not wrong." "Can she just keep doing this?" I asked. "Like, adding herself to everything, making herself essential." "She can try," Melissa said. "But she only has as much power as you and your husband give her. The problem is that right now, he's on her side more than yours." That hit hard because it was true. "I don't know if I'm ready to divorce him," I said quietly. I need this to stop." "Then we start with boundaries backed by paper," she said. "You revoke any authorizations you didn't agree to. You put in writing who is allowed to do what. And you give your husband one very clear chance to get on your team instead of his mother's." We spent the next hour going through practical steps. Contact the insurance, revoke the form, add a note that any changes required my direct confirmation. Update pediatrician and daycare forms to specify parents only for decisions. Grandparent can pick up only with parent confirmation each time. No blanket guardian status. Create a simple, notarized document stating that I do not authorize any third party to act as Emma's guardian without my explicit consent, and that any previous documents with my forged signature are invalid. Melissa also suggested something else. "Start a paper trail with your husband," she said. "Text, email. Ask directly about these things instead of only talking in person. If this escalates, those messages will matter." I went home with a folder of letters and a knot in my stomach. When I told Matt I'd seen a lawyer, he looked betrayed. "You went to a lawyer behind my back," he said, "like I'm some abuser or something. You let your mother fake my signature on legal forms about our daughter," I said. "I needed to know what my options were." "She didn't fake anything," he protested. "You must have signed something and forgotten. You've been so tired." I cut him off. "Matt, I know what my signature looks like. So does the bank. So does the DMV," I said. "If I put that form in front of a handwriting expert, they would laugh. I have the original. I have the account log from the insurance company showing it was uploaded from your mom's email. Do not gaslight me." He went quiet. "I thought you wanted help," he muttered. "You're always saying you're exhausted. My mom just wants to step in. She has experience." "I want help," I said. "I do, but not at the price of being slowly written out of my own child's life." He scoffed. "No one is writing you out of anything," he said. "You're being dramatic." That night while he showered, I checked his email on the shared laptop. I know, but my gut was screaming. In his sent folder, I didn't find much. A few messages to his mom complaining that I was sensitive and didn't appreciate how much she did. Nothing explosive. In his archived folder, I found it. An email thread between him, Carol, and of all people, a random notary service. "Carol, if we do a temporary guardianship, does DIL have to be present to sign? She's recovering from surgery and not always lucid." Notary. Both legal parents need to understand and consent to what they are signing. We cannot notarize without clear, voluntary participation. Matt. What if one parent is mentally unstable? She has postpartum issues. Carol. She trusts you. You can sign for her if needed. My hands were shaking as I scrolled. Another email from Carol. "We should set this up now just in case. If something happens, I don't want CPS stepping in when we could keep her in the family. You know how bad the system is." Matt didn't push back, he wrote. "Let me know what form we need. I'll get her to sign something when she's out of it." I took screenshots of everything and emailed them to myself. The next day I went nuclear, in a quiet, controlled way. I called Melissa. "I have more receipts," I said, "and I think I know which team my husband is on." Melissa invited both of us, me and Matt, for a clarification meeting. She framed it as going over parental rights and third-party involvement. I told Matt it was to get everyone on the same page. He agreed to come. Carol insisted on coming too. "I should be there," she said. "As the grandma, this affects me." Melissa, to her eternal credit, said, "Actually, I only represent your daughter-in-law, and this is about her rights as a parent. You're welcome to wait in the lobby." So on a Tuesday afternoon, we sat in Melissa's office. Me on one chair, Matt on another. Carol simmering outside like a storm cloud. Melissa laid out a neat stack of papers on the desk. "Let's review," she said calmly. "Right now, legally, the only people with parental rights over Emma are you two. Not your parents, not your in-laws, just you." Matt nodded warily. "However," she continued, "your mother has already attempted to insert herself into decision-making roles by having forms signed in her favor. One of those forms includes what appears to be a forged signature from my client." She slid the insurance form across the desk. Matt shifted. "We already talked about that," he said. "It was a misunderstanding." Melissa raised an eyebrow. "Was this your signature?" she asked me. "No," I said. "Did you authorize anyone to sign it on your behalf?" she asked. "No," I said. She turned to Matt. "Did you know your mother submitted this form?" she asked, "and that it listed her as the primary contact for Emma's care?" He opened his mouth, closed it, then tried a half-truth. "She said Op had already signed something similar at the pediatrician," he said. "She told me this was just a copy for the insurance. I didn't read the whole thing." Melissa didn't argue with him. She just pulled out the printed email thread. "Is this your email address?" she asked. He froze. "What is that?" he asked. "That's you, your mother, and a notary service discussing how to get temporary guardianship of Emma," she said, "including whether your wife needed to be lucid to sign." Color drained from his face. "I wasn't seriously," he started. She cut him off. "Mr. Last Name," she said, and her voice went from polite to razor-sharp. I'm going to explain this once. Forging your spouse's signature on documents involving your child's care or attempting to mislead a notary about her capacity to consent is not help. It is fraud. It is a massive red flag in family court, and if you continue down this path, you will not like how judges view you as a parent. He gulped. I was just trying to make sure my mom could step in if something happened, he said weakly. Melissa nodded slowly. If something happened, she said, your wife is still Emma's parent. If, God forbid, something happened to both of you, courts would look at extended family then. But preemptively trying to sideline your child's mother so your own mother can play replacement parent, that's not how this works. She turned to me. Here, where we are, she said. You have every right to revoke any authorizations, to tell doctors, daycare, and insurance that you and your husband are the only decision makers. You also have grounds to demand that your husband stop trying to give your mother more power over your child than you're comfortable with. She looked between us. Whether you stay married or not is your decision, she said. But if this behavior continues, I will strongly advise my client to pursue legal separation and a custody plan that protects her and Emma from any further attempts to undermine her parental rights. Matt looked small. I'd never seen him look that way. He tried one last defense. Mom just loves Emma, he said. She just wants to be involved. No one is saying she can't be involved, Melissa replied. She can visit, babysit with your wife's consent, be a grandma. What she cannot do is quietly try to make herself a legal authority over your child while undercutting the child's actual mother. The meeting ended with a very formal plan. All existing forms naming Carol as primary anything for Emma would be revoked. Any future forms about Emma's care would require both parents' informed consent. Matt would send an email to his mother making this clear, so there would be a record. I walked out feeling like I'd been hit by a truck and saved from a second one at the same time. Outside, Carol pounced. Well, she demanded, what did she say? This affects me too. Matt looked at her and to his credit said, we'll talk later, Mom. She glared at me like I'd personally unplugged her from life support. You'd think that would be the end. It was. Carol went on a smear campaign. To hear her tell it, I had cut her out of her granddaughter's life and brought lawyers into a family matter. She told relatives I was keeping Emma from her real family. She told Matt's brother's wife I was mentally unstable and obsessed with control. What she didn't know was that I'd already started quietly making backup plans if this escalated. A separate bank account, copies of important documents, a folder labeled just in case, with all the evidence I'd gathered. The final straw came when I caught her in another lie. I arrived at daycare one day to pick up Emma, and the director pulled me aside. We had a small issue today, she said. Your mother-in-law came by and said she was there for early pickup. She told us you asked her to get Emma. I frowned. I didn't ask her to, I said. The director nodded. That's what we suspected, she said, because when we called your number to confirm, you sounded surprised. Carol had tried to pick up Emma without telling me. The only reason it didn't work was because the daycare had strict confirmation rules. I went home, sat at the kitchen table, and looked at the life I was in. A husband who thought forging my name wasn't a big deal. A mother-in-law who saw my child as her girl and me as a vessel. A constant low-grade fear that if I got sick, depressed, or distracted, papers would quietly move around me. I filed for legal separation 2 weeks later. Matt was devastated, mostly about finances, house, logistics. He cried, said he loved me, said he never meant it to go this far. Maybe he believes that, maybe he doesn't. I told him I believed he loved Emma. I also told him love doesn't excuse what he and his mother tried to do. You picked a third parent without asking me, I said. And that third parent was your mom, not me. I can't trust you after that. In mediation, we worked out a parenting plan. Joint legal custody, primary physical custody with me for now, because I'm her primary caregiver. Explicit clauses limiting third-party decision-making. A line in the agreement that no one, not grandparents, not partners, can present themselves as a guardian, sign documents, or make major decisions about Emma's care without the consent of both of us. My lawyer made sure those emails, that forged form, and the daycare incident were all in the file. The mediator, a polite older man, looked at Matt at one point and said, I strongly suggest you make sure your mother understands she is a grandparent, not a third parent. Judges do not like it when extended family overstep. Now, 10 months after Emma's birth, my life looks very different than I imagined it would. I live in a smaller place with just me and Emma. It's cramped, but every name on every document on the fridge is one I actually signed. Matt sees Emma regularly. On his weekends, if she goes to his parents' house, I make sure schedules are clear and boundaries are respected. I have daycare, pediatrician, and my lawyer all in the loop. Carol still makes snide comments. She tells anyone who will listen that I broke up the family and stole her granddaughter. I don't engage. Emma will grow up knowing her grandmother. She will also grow up knowing that I fought for my right to be her mother on paper, not just in practice. And if one day she asks me, Mom, why don't we see Nana as much as we see your side? I'll tell her a simple version of the truth. Because some adults have a hard time remembering that children belong to their parents, not to anyone who decides they know best. So here's my question. If you found out your husband and his mother were quietly trying to put her name on your baby's legal and medical documents, would you have done what I did? Put a lawyer between you and their help? Or would you still believe it was just excited grandma energy? Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, tell us whose side you're on in the comments, and subscribe to Reddit Story Vault for more full Reddit-style stories about toxic in-laws, custody, and legal revenge every day.